I would like to call to order the Clarkston Independence District Library Board of Trustees meeting for December 14th at 5:30. Let's rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. You don't even have to sit down. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Dan Gatsby.
Here.
Michelle Ginn.
Here.
Dan Green.
Here.
Mary Himbert.
Here.
Sally Lamb. Here. Allison McFadden Casey absent. Marilyn Conway.
Here.
Julie Meredith here.
I'll accept a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Right, we
Oh.
do it when they're approving the agenda.
We're going to
Sorry.
add one item to the consent agenda. At this moment, it will be L, approval to pay parking lot invoices. This is a budgeted item. We just received the invoice too late for the package.
I move that we approve the agenda with the addition.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the addition to the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Call to the public. Hello, public.
Hi. As most of you know, we just had the first week in December, our annual holiday sale. And I must say that we were right on track with the amount of money raised. It's new items, barely used items, once read items, and also other various things that are turned into the friends, like stuffed animals, whatever. We are looking at, and will continue to do this over the next few months, examining now, since the library is open 7 days a week, if we want to stick to a 2-day format, go to a 3-day format. And if it's a 2-day format, we tried Saturday and Sunday this year. There were pros and cons. Looking at Friday, Saturday next year, or as I said, a 3-day format. And our new board will start effective in their new positions January 1st. So this will be my last meeting as library advisory liaison.
We'll miss you,
I'll be around.
but welcome into your new position.
Thank you.
Which is, congratulations on that.
Which is?
President-elect of the Friends Board.
And I must say, I am trying, if right now we do not have a person for this position, and if that continues, I've already suggested that I think each board member of the Friends should take a turn coming and seeing exactly how the governing board operates and getting to know who you are, and then you will get to know who they are also.
That's a good idea.
Excellent idea. Thank you.
I will pass that on at our next meeting.
All right, thank you. The consent agenda is long tonight. Are there any items that you wish to exclude? If not, I'll accept a movement to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the addition of letter L as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Library statistics.
The statistics are in your packet, well, in your handouts that came with your packet. Bill wanted to point out that the monthly totals are correct, but the day of week totals, when it comes to the people counter, are off somewhat because our people counter has been doing some strange things. So I suspect in January you will see a request to purchase new people. It's still counting the people, but it's not dividing them up by day of week, it's just clumping them all into one. So our statistics are a little bit,
So the end result is
the end
same.
result is proper, but if you like to look at the day of week, which days of the week are busier and that, it's been doing this on and off for about the past 2 months. So we've discovered that we think it's not a fixable issue and that perhaps we should just do it.
Well, it's not a new,
It's not a new system. We've had it for several years, and it is attached to the door, and it has been bumped a number of times by carts and strollers and such. So it seems to be. I think we've gotten our money's worth out of it. It may be time to retire it.
okay. And the library director's report.
All right. And my report this evening, in terms of finances, the library director, the library's attorney, and the township's attorney held a phone meeting last month to discuss the draft of the contract from the township's attorney regarding the OPEB funds that have been held in trust by the township in the library's name. All parties agreed that the library's attorney would make proposed changes. She has done so, and after being reviewed by the library director, treasurer, and president, the library's attorney sent the draft to the township's attorney, and the suggested changes are currently being reviewed by the township. I talked to Barb about it. It sounds like she would really like to see it on their last December meeting of the year. And if the library or the township board approves it, then you'll probably see it on your first agenda in January. But we'll see.
And that's not going to be an issue because we didn't do it by the end of the audit period?
The township attorney didn't seem bothered by that. So.
Okay.
That was the original goal.
Right, I knew
to do
that.
But I don't know that it was a requirement.
Okay.
I think that because there's an actual contract being
Discussed.
Right.
volleyed back and forth, that the auditors would see that as a good faith effort to get it done by the end of the year. So
Works for me.
I thought if they were more concerned that they would have said something by now, but they haven't. So.
Yes, because certainly the township attorney knows that it has to be approved by both boards before it's a
Yep.
signed contract. So they're not worried about it.
That was sort of my feeling in the matter about. Each year, the library receives E-rate funds as part of a federal grant to help pay for high-speed internet access being made available to the public through the library. The amount is usually about $5,000. We received a statement that this year's check will be for $6,990.85. That is in your packet under the consent agenda if you want to see that statement, but I did want to make note of it. So
Do you know why it was more?
Actually, no. What I'm assuming is that somewhere in the approval of grants, they decided that the cost of internet had gone up and they raised the grant. But I'm not sure exactly.
But we are thankful.
But we are thankful, absolutely. We're excited about that. Building and grounds, the letters from the library's previous name have been removed from the southeast wall of the building. The retaining wall outside the meeting room fire door has been rebuilt. The Parks and Farm and Garden Club paid to have the concrete slab poured so that the tree statue that was donated by Ron and Elizabeth Wagner could be incorporated into the landscape. The Friends of the Library paid to have the statue moved onto its newly poured concrete slab. And a Parks and Farm and Garden Club committee led by Pat Chase is developing a plan for a new garden around the statue and to fill the area where the overgrown bushes were removed a few months ago. So all that will take place in the spring. But all that pre-work has been done. I'm so excited to cross that off my to-do list. Finally, before the snow flies, fortunately the snow is flying a little late this year. We know where it's gotten done.
A little bit of our budget on snow removal.
Exactly. In terms of collaborations and projects, the library director and the business and marketing librarian are working on an application for a grant that will pay for 2 additional library staff members to be trained in the Harvard Institute Community Conversation Techniques. This will allow the library to better use these methods as part of our strategic planning process. The application is due on December 21st, and the award will be announced in January. So we have our fingers crossed. We think we're good candidates for this grant.
Good.
And then last but not least, the library will once again participate in Shiver by the River in Depot Park on Saturday, January 16th from 1 to 4 p.m. The event features ice skating, music, kids activities, a hands-on craft tent, chili, s'mores, cocoa, and photos with the mouse from the storybook If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. So if that is your favorite storybook character, please come and have your picture taken with the mouse.
I remember him.
Yep. Friends of the Library will also be awarding prizes for unique and whimsical hats, scarves, and mittens, so mark your calendar for this fun event.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, on to regular business. Phase 2 of the parking lot.
Okay. The library director and the civil engineer from Hubble, Roth & Clark have been discussing options for Phase 2 of the parking lot project to deal with the grade of the handicap parking spaces. When the building was built in 1992, the grade met the code at the time, but the code has changed since then. The library director will present 2 options for the board to review. You got here. 2 additional topics for discussion and direction from the board include improved lighting in the parking lot and the repair of the columns at the library's entrance. Additions, the engineer wanted me to remind you that additions to the work plan for Phase 2 will result in increased project costs, but decisions must be made in order for the RFP to be finalized throughout the bid. So, I have these fabulous drawings that you created for us to put on the board, and I can explain them. I don't know how easy it's going to be for the public to see these, because these are full-size maps. I don't know that I can really make them any bigger, but let's see. I think this can be a little printer. So this is what the parking lot currently looks like. Phase 2, oh wait, there we go. Phase 1 was this whole driveway portion right here. Phase 2 will be the island and the entrance, so all these gray portions. So here's the building right here, and here's the flat part of the parking lot, and then the driveway is this part that goes up the side. So the part we're talking about is this drive that goes across the entrance. There's the entrance of the library that loops around, and then this is the service drive that goes back to our delivery door, and then all this concrete work that goes across the front of the building. And you'll see he's looking at the concrete work that goes around the island and across the parking lot side of the island. He's not worried about this ramp. That's in pretty good shape. And we just did the steps, and we did this little piece at the top when we did Phase 1. Okay, so the part that's a problem is this part right here. There are 5 parking spots here, including a van accessible spot, and the grade is too steep. So it's better on this end than on this end. It's much too steep over here, and he has either decided that it's not really feasible or not cost effective to try and regrade all that. So what he's given us 2 options. First option, he is suggesting, get everybody's bearings again, there's the building, there's the drive, these are the handicap parking spots where they currently are. What he is suggesting in this option is that we reduce the number of handicap spots in this area to 3, so the van accessible, and then 2 additional, and then we would bump out this part right here, and it would become the grassy knoll, I don't know what to call it. Anyway, and then this is the drive that goes around to that delivery door, and he is proposing, this is the little brick pavers patio and the Peter Rabbit garden, and he is proposing putting 2 additional handicap parking spots, one of which would be van accessible. So we would actually have 2 van accessible spots. We currently only have 1. We are only, by code, only required to have 1. So that would be an improvement. And then he would also be taking this sidewalk. The sidewalk slopes down this way. He would take the sidewalk along here and along the pieces of the actual parking places.
Where's the UPS?
Yeah, I was going to say, the UPS box is there too.
Melissa is responsible, our business and marketing librarian is responsible for having that put in, and she said, absolutely not a problem. She called UPS and they will come out and remove it while we have the work done and put it back wherever we want it.
Okay.
So they're not concerned whatsoever.
Good.
Yep. Now, the advantage of this is that the handicap spots are not currently near the book drop, so this would be nice for that. That would create some accessibility there. However, it does separate the 2, so we would have to make sure that there's good signage, because of course people will think that by moving these spots that we have reduced the number of handicap spots, which we certainly wouldn't want people to think we were doing that. That was not the plan. But obviously the problem is that that there would be 3 flat-ish spots here and 2 flatter spots over here.
Well, the advantage is that they would be adjacent to the sidewalk closest to the building.
Yes.
So that's,
Flat.
and flatter, okay.
Yep.
So
Well,
that's the
and it-
advantage of that one?
Yep, and the other thing that this does is, one of the things that we have a problem with is currently there's a piece of sidewalk that goes all the way down to the driveway, and that's in really bad shape. This particular option would eliminate that sidewalk needing any work done to it, because basically we would take it out and put in grass.
Which then it doesn't matter what the grade is because.
Yep. Indeed. Okay, any questions about
No?
option 1? Okay, option 2. Okay, so option 2, and I want to thank the board members who have come in and looked at this and thought about this and sort of fussed over this whole thought, because this original option, the way it's drawn right now, would actually remove these 5 handicap spots and put grass in there. And then move all of the handicap parking to the west side of the parking lot, just so we have our bearing. There's the building, there's the entrance, there's that drive that goes around the back door. So it would be the 2 spots that we had just talked about, there next to the brick paver patio, and then 3 additional spots across that little drive. This would, the disadvantage of this, and why he was a little hesitant to give this plan, was that it would require the removal of some trees right here. Not to downplay the importance of trees, but we do have a lot of trees on our property. So we do not have any sort of a tree shortage, and these particular trees are very,
They're not very attractive.
they're older. Thank you for saying that, 'cause I wasn't quite sure how to say that. They're rather scraggly looking trees. They are not adding to the landscape, let's say. So sacrificing those trees for this purpose, I don't know if people would have a problem with that or not. But after much discussion about this particular, I actually want to give Mary credit for this, because I think this is a fantastic idea, and the engineer thought so as well. Instead of eliminating these 5 spots, while they are not properly graded for handicapped accessibility, because it would be difficult for someone in a wheelchair to roll up that slope, they are within code for standard parking. So it was suggested that we could leave those 5 spots there, just repaint them as regular spots, and label them as short-term parking. So then we would have 5 handicap spots on this side, and then we would have 5 short-term parking spots for those people that are perhaps dropping off donated books, or need to spend maybe 15 minutes running in to drop off an item and pay a fine, or just hop in and pick up, drop off one book and pick up another. This would not really be parking if you're going to stay for a whole program, but would be something that if you're going to run in and run out, which would reduce the temptation to park right here in front of the door. We're still probably going to get a little bit of that over here in front of the book drop, and that's understandable, but it would prevent this sort of line of, sometimes we get sort of a line of cars along here.
And we might not use the handicap parking, as they do now.
Yeah, sometimes we do get people who are using this handicap parking that maybe don't have handicap stickers on their cars. So, so that would definitely be an advantage for the people that really need that space. Now, one of the questions that came up from the board, and I'm going to throw it back out there because this was something that I was asked individually in my office, was what is the distance? And this is flatter, and the distance, if you measure it, is basically the same. So, but this is much, much flatter over here.
And it is the same to the door from there?
It is,
Okay.
yeah,
It goes further.
it is up to
It
code.
looks like, when you actually look at it right now out there, it looks like it's more like going downhill a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that they're figuring with the grade.
Yep.
I do have a question, and I think this actually came from Julie, but what about the delivery trucks and that to try to get in and out of it?
One of the things I did mention to the engineer was that I can see the delivery drive from my office, and it scares me a little sometimes when people are parked back here. Just the speed at which they come in and the maneuverability, they do a fabulous job, but there are times when I think, wow, that's a tight little space. It is up to code, and the engineer said that if we chose this option, he would make some adjustments to this to maximize, maybe bump this out a little bit to maximize the turning radius, and widen it a little bit and make it a little bit easier for those trucks to
So they're
get
not
in.
trying to just back out around the curve.
Right. Yep. The other concern, major concern I have with this is that when you leave this evening, I would like for you all to look at the lighting over in this area right there. It's bad. I usually leave out the back door, and I have one of those little flashlights on my phone, and I turn on the flashlight in order to keep from killing myself.
Stepping in a hole?
Stepping in the hole that's on this back loop right here, yeah. So we definitely will need to do something about the lighting. So the question in terms of what the engineer would like to know is, do you want him to work that into the RFP as part of this project, or would we like to bid that out separately? And,
Well, if we went with the first option, we still would need more lighting.
we would still need more lighting, absolutely. We need, I'm sorry, I should have said that. We need more lighting in that area. We talked about it previously. It wasn't such a big deal because the staff has the choice to go in or out the back door, but as soon as we put patrons over here, we absolutely need to do something about that because it is just,
Particularly patrons who may be moving more slowly, trying to get in and out of their vehicles.
There's-
Yeah.
Right, and the cars come moving around the curve there.
Yeah.
Crossing, that was the concern for me, and you can't move any faster.
And there's a light pole right here. And there is a light pole with the trees. And then there's another one right here. And we're still struggling with the light across the way because we improved this light pole.
It is
But it's still dark right there.
Yeah.
It's not horribly dark, but it's not as bright as I would like to see it. I feel like this area right in the middle of the drive is pretty dark, and it's a prime place for somebody not to see if you have a beautiful black wool coat on. Or you're wearing a black hoodie because, you know.
Is it easier to install new lighting while you're paving? Is there an advantage to that?
He didn't really, the only thing he thought we might want to consider is if we need conduit added.
And we might.
And we might, I don't know if we necessarily will need conduit added underneath.
Well, because are we going to need additional lighting if we put 3 more handicap spots on that far side where there are no trees?
Yeah, there's no lighting over there, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Which would probably be better to do at some point.
So that- which is what, right.
In conjunction
Right.
with that, rather than drilling all
You know, we certainly don't want to tear anything up or have to
Well,
tunnel under later.
No. I mean, you see that happens so often, they get a nice new paving job done, and then they come in with the saws and cut a utility cut.
So the question that he was asking in terms of the lighting is, do we want to go ahead and bid out lighting separately? Like, go to lighting contractors and have them make recommendations, and then adjust the bid if we have to have a conduit laid when the asphalt is torn up? Or do we want to work it into this and have the engineer take control? I suspect it might be more expensive to do it that way, but I don't know for certain.
Now, our lighting, the lighting that's been done already since the village passed was done by electrical people.
It was done by our facilities company that we
Right.
use, and they're not really lighting professionals, they have professional electricians. So they didn't actually give me a plan for how they would improve the lighting. They basically said, if I change this fixture on the poles you already have,
Right.
that will improve the lighting. So everything that they have suggested is, we'll work with the fixtures you already have, or the poles you already have, and put in better fixtures. Whereas if we were to bring in a lighting company and say, come in and assess the fact that it's really dark over here, they might say, well, let's add a pole here. I think where we need to add a pole is going to be like
Right.
here somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I think we're going to need to add something, as Nikki pointed out, I think we're going to need to add something over here because this is just
I'm pretty sure we
dark,
will.
dark.
Pretty dark.
Maybe
Yeah.
right over here, although there's a fire hydrant right there, but somewhere in that area.
Yeah, isn't the fire hydrant going to be in the way of those spots?
Well, according to the engineer, this is all up to code, but I am going to call the fire chief and have him tell me who he would like to take a look at it before we say, yes, this is the direction we're going to go.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, we should at least have a conversation and determine which option we lean toward before I take up this time having him look at a plan and then have us say, nah, never mind, we decided to go with the other plan.
Do you think he has a preference?
The fire chief?
No, the engineer.
Oh, the engineer? I think the engineer actually was leaning toward this. One of the reasons that he was concerned about bringing this forward is he thought that the board would nix it right out of the gate because you wouldn't want to take down the trees.
Oh, we can plant more trees.
Well, And I don't know, and I want to make this, I don't know that moving those trees is really a good,
Not those trees.
No.
not those trees, no.
Those trees
So-
will best be used for firewood if we get them.
Yes. And I don't want people to think that we don't think that the trees are valuable. They are very, it's very nice to have trees, but those trees have had sort of a rough life. They are in the state, we actually had several of those trees. The fact that those trees are still standing is kind of surprising to me because a lot of the other ones that are on the property were taken out by ice storms over the course of the last. We used to have, there used to be 1 or 2 right here, there used to be 3 right here, and we've lost all of those. And so these are showing the wear and tear of getting beaten up by ice
Yeah,
storms.
and they don't have a real deep root system. I don't
No.
think. Yeah, so,
When the ice gets on them and the wind blows, they just
Yeah.
go right over.
Yeah.
So,
so I'm thinking that removing them before they choose to remove themselves and cause additional damage might be
Actually,
a good
in
idea.
any case, the ones before they fall on
Yeah,
the road.
yeah.
Well, also the power company has done a lot of work down that swath of,
Down the
Property
utility dump
line.
lot, yep. But those trees are not included. Those are actually part of the library property, so. The work they've done is more over this way.
more of that, right?
Mhm. And then these trees are, it looks like there's probably 6 or 7 trees over here. The engineer would have to come out and actually tag. I see at least 3 right here that would need to go, and possibly a 4th one that's right there. It depends on how far out this goes. I'm not a very good judge of distance. I'd have to go out there with a tape measure and be able to tell which trees would need to go. But I would say there are at least 3, possibly 4.
I don't have an issue with the trees.
So we're really faced, number one, no matter what we decide, we need more lighting in that area.
Right.
Okay? So the next question is, do we want to keep the parking over here for short term and move all of the handicap parking to the left?
Yep.
That's our first question.
The first question is, do you want him to proceed, these are drafts, these are very rough drafts. So the first question is, do you want to proceed with suggested plan 1, which would be 2 parking spots over here and 3 parking spots over here? And then we would also need to deal with the lighting. Or do you prefer option 2, where where 3 to 4 trees might need to be taken out, but all 5 spaces would move over here, and these spaces would become short-term parking?
My concern with this one is that even given that the distance is the same, which my eyes are telling me it's not, but
It's further.
is it more hazardous to have handicapped people walking across a drive or transporting themselves in a wheelchair across a drive or staying on a sidewalk closer to the building?
So that's my objection too.
I think it's
Is that it just looks to me like a safety issue, it has nothing to do with trees. But it just seems to me a safety issue and a convenience issue for the people that will use these handicap spots. So I'm definitely in the Plan 1 camp.
So you would like to keep the 3 spots to the right and 2 spots to the left on the same
Yes.
side as the building?
Yes.
Due to safety
Safety
concerns
is
crossing
my
that
number one
driveway,
concern, yes.
when people are coming around and when the other things are coming in, and when those cars are backing up
Yeah.
into the driveway area.
I mean, I can see, that it's more level, I can see that on that plus side, but as long as those 3 over there would be level enough, plus you've got 2 on the flatter area over here, but all on the same side, that just feels safer to me.
The other thing I thought about for short-term parking, which I do see a need for, would be to put some parallel parking along the,
I did ask him about that.
I
He said he didn't like it.
No, 'cause you-
No, he said it wasn't a good idea. It just wasn't, the driveway's not really, the
we
driveway's
could
not
put the
really.
short-term parking space.
Yeah.
And that's a thought too, put 3 short-term spots over there where he's got the handicap spots, and, I mean, now we're at a cost, because now we're gonna have a grassy knoll, and we're gonna have.
We could possibly have 2 short-term spots by keeping all 5 spots here and not eliminating the 2, but then we could have to
Well,
deal
that's
with
true. Couldn't you
Yeah.
have the 3 handicap that were level? And then instead of putting grass in there, have a couple short term run in and out.
You mean here?
No, the short terms would be the ones closest to the,
Closest to the driveway.
my concern is people would not use those. They'd say, oh, I'll just drive over there to the book.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think
Yeah,
that-
that's true.
If they're going to just run in for a couple minutes, whether they're running up the steps from the first area of the parking lot, or whether they're running from the driveway, in essence, is still a distance to be covered. I still think they are more likely to drive right up and block the
Yeah.
entrance.
Just like that was.
Yeah. I mean, because that's pretty much human nature.
Right.
How close can I get, and I'm just
Right.
running in.
I'm just
Right.
running
That'll
in.
be the thought pattern, I think.
And I'm not sure that even if you had 5 short-term spaces over there, that you wouldn't still have people going up the book drops way over there. I'm gonna.
You would still have some, I think, but for the people that are, are coming in to return a book and pick up a book, like a whole book, that would probably be a convenience for them, because this is quite a distance if you're just
That's
pulling in
true,
and
yeah.
running up here and
Yeah.
coming in just to drop off one book and pick up another, or pick up something that's on hold or something else. I think most people would be more likely to park here than there. The ones that are still going to park here are the ones that are dropping things off the book drop, and the ones that are unloading donations.
Yeah.
Which, when people have a lot of donations, we actually take them around to the delivery door, and we take them in from the back door. Because there's a ramp, and it's right back where the Friends do their sorting anyway, so we're not transporting them from here and all the way across the building. We're driving them up to the back door, and it's just right there.
So both have things to recommend them, don't
They
they?
do. Is cost an issue? Do
It
you know
is,
that yet?
we won't really know until he starts to work out the details of it. I suspect that this option, because we'll be taking out trees and adding spaces,
And lighting.
that it will be more expensive.
Yeah.
That would
Either
just-
one is a great improvement.
And they're both up to code. It's just a matter of sort of determining, do you want to expand the amount of parking, or do we want to solve the problem, which is the fact that the handicap parking is.
Well, I'm pretty sure we don't want to deal with the grade, right?
He basically said that there would be no, he could do 3 spots over here and 2 spots over here within grade. He did not say that there would be any sort of a way to manage the, making all 5 of these flat.
Right.
That's not possible.
Well, plus then
really?
you do have, and if you go with 5 spots there, even if 2 of them are short-term,
Yeah.
then you're back to that sidewalk issue.
The 2 new ones over here, basically, those are both wheelchair accessible because of the sidewalk next to that, the one to the east. So, you know, I don't, if all 3 of those are not perfectly flat, I think.
I just, my mother has a handicap sticker, and I would rather have her getting out on the side of the building. She moves about at a snail's pace, and it would take her 10 minutes possibly to get from those spots over there
Across the
to
driveway.
the door. And for much of that time, she would be exposed to any careless driver who came along.
So the problem is, if we adopt this plan, but keep the 2 end spots for short-term parking, we have an issue with that sidewalk?
She
Yeah.
said that's not
That was
an issue.
still-
So maybe
yeah.
we should just forget about
Short-term parking.
And I think that probably, because I think even if we went with option, not back over to option 2, I think even if we went back over to option 2, that he would not, I don't think he would make all of this short term. I think he would put maybe 4 or 5 spaces. This looks like technically it could maybe accommodate 6 short-term parking spaces, but for practicality and to keep it from being all the way down here on this edge where the grade is a little bit steep, I think he would probably do 4, maybe 5 right there. I don't think he would take it up to 6.
So am I hearing we would prefer to keep at least 3 short-term parking to the right and 2 short-term parking, or 3 short-term. 3 handicap parking to the right and 2 handicap parking to the left. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I think.
Do we like option
That's what I
one?
was
Yeah.
thinking that before.
Yeah.
Option one, so.
Then we like the 3, keep 3 over here,
Yeah.
add 2 over here. We wouldn't have to take out any trees. We will have to do something about lighting, but there'd be no need for conduit underneath, so we could at that point then deal with the lighting with the lighting contractor separately. Okay?
At a further time, if we're looking at better uses of our property, we might put additional parking.
A short-term, a little
Yeah,
short-term thing.
we could
Right.
do that,
We could, right.
but it would not have to be done right now. We're not taking away anything,
Right.
we're just shifting some of it.
Right. Well, the other nice thing is by doing this early, we're bidding this out, well, we're hoping to bid it out in December. Obviously, we're not going to make that deadline, but we will be bidding out in January most likely. So upon doing that, the goal is to have the work done in May, in the spring, which of course is when the days get longer. And so lighting in the evening will not be a problem. That will buy us some time to work with this as well. So we can work on that over the course of the
So
summer.
we'll just need some signage to, oh, by the way, there's more handicap parking over there, and,
And those that use it regularly will get used.
yeah.
Well, we can use our website, and the same way we did the parking lot project this year. People were very much in the loop on what was going on. We have ads in the newspaper every week, so we can add it to that. We can use Facebook and social media to let people know that we're doing this in order to deal with. I'm sure the people who use these handicap parking spots know the grade is off.
Right. Right.
So,
And, you know, we're ending up with the same number, which, from what I can tell, appears to be adequate.
it's up to code. It is up to code. Yep.
And I don't recall very many times seeing it all full anyways.
Every once in a while it does, but,
Sorry.
okay? Okay.
Do we need a motion?
We do.
Okay. Well, I move that we go with option 1.
Actually-
And handle the lighting separately.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we have the engineer pursue option 1, and we'll handle the lighting separately. All those, any more discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion is carried.
Thank you.
It really is painful, as I thought.
I'm afraid that was a really tough conversation.
Well, we still have options for later. so-
Yes, and that's a good point. And the last piece that he wanted me to have you talk about before we switch to the next item, repair of the columns at the library's entrance. The columns that are, as you walk up to the door, the concrete is crumbling at the bottom. And did we want to have them go ahead and deal with that when they deal with that concrete pad that goes right up to the door?
I would say so.
Yeah.
He wanted you to know that it would add into the cost and we could contract it. It seems sort of
It
strange
doesn't
that
seem like
somebody
it
else
would
can
add so
do
much
it
to the
separately.
cost as having another contractor come in later and do it separately and wouldn't cost.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. Okay.
And this is the time to deal with it. If they're going to deal with the entrance, let's just do it once and not come back and do something else later.
Okay, so we'll do the lighting separately.
We've given her plenty of things to to discuss with our engineer. So that will take care of the sidewalk also, because it won't have to be repaired. It'll have to be removed.
Yep, indeed. I think you picked the less expensive option.
I think so.
It still solves the problem.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Number 2, let's look at the budget review and make our final budget adjustments
Okay.
for 2015.
So in your packet, you have this, it looks like a quarterly report, but it's not. It is through November 30th, plus it includes the expenditures from the December 3rd check run, which was the first check run in December that we've done. So,
And we have this too, right?
yep. The other piece that you're going to need, it was in with the director's report. It looks like this. It's a little spreadsheet. Okay.
So
So what I'm going to do is go down the list of, Sharon did not have any comments about revenues. She was fine with the way the revenues came. So we want to start on, maybe we should number these pages to make it a little bit easier. We want to start on the page that has the revenues at the top, and then the expenditures are about halfway down the page.
That's number 1.
That'll be number 1. And I'm just going to go through line item by line item and let you know how we stand in each line item. So we start with 706 full-time wages. We have 3.5 pay periods left this year. And there is a slight surplus in full-time wages. The reason that happens is because when we calculate out how much we put in that line item, we actually calculate out based on everybody's salary and add it in, but we don't take into account, we don't calculate the detail in of removing how much we would take out for payroll deductions, the amount that the employees are paying for their health care and that sort of thing, because those numbers can sometimes change, so it's easier to just calculate salaries, and so that's why there's always a little bit of surplus there. In terms of part-time wages, there's $83,653 left. As I said, we have 3.5 payrolls left. If we bump it up, I think we need about $50,000 left in that line item. So there is a surplus there. Now the reason there is because we had budgeted to hire an additional part-time custodian. We hired somebody, that person didn't work out and they left. And we did not replace that person because we were able to manage with the one part-timer working a few extra hours, so we managed to do that and save a little bit of money. Bill has not hired his IT assistant yet, so that person was budgeted but not added in. And with everything else going on, we had a part-time administrative assistant worked out, and we haven't added that one yet as well. So there were some positions that we did not fill. If you go to the next one, overtime, we always budget about $500, and that little amount that's sitting there is still a surplus. We won't probably need it between now and the end of the year, but it is there. 714 unemployment, that would be a surplus. FICA and Medicare, because we have some surplus in those wage line items, I estimate that we need about $9,300 left in that line, and so that leaves a surplus of about $2,900. Health insurance, this one we always have to make adjustments every year because babies are born and staff come and go and that sort of thing. So we always wait and just make a budget adjustment at the end of the year. My estimate is that we need about $9,600 in that line item. And so when we go through the spreadsheet, I'll tell you where that can come from. Life insurance, we have paid out everything that we owe for this year, so that's a surplus. 718 retirement. I've estimated, based on the fact that we've got these 4 payrolls left, that we need about $8,000 in that line item. So there's a surplus of about $7,100. OPEB, which is now, it's labeled as OPEB, but it's really our HCSP program. There's only $1,000 left. I estimate we need about $2,300 left, so we need to add $1,300 to that line item. Workers' comp, and disability short-term and long-term, those are surpluses. We've already made all those payments for the year. If we hop down to books and acquisitions, 982.1 is adult books. That one, I think we need to add about $2,000 to make sure that we come out evenly. The rest of those line items are all set, so we can, oh, wait a minute, I missed one. The next one down, 92.2. There's a surplus there, and Tracy would like to move $200 from her book account to her programming account because she thinks she's a little bit close in programming. And then 92.3, 0.4, and 0.5 are all set. And then 92.6, there's a slight surplus in there, and so Lawrence and Melissa have suggested that we take the $2,000 needed for adults from that line and put it up in 982.1. So that's easily fixed.
Within that category.
So within that same category, yep. So flipping to the next page, 807 audit, that one's all set. Legal, I think there's going to be a little bit of a surplus in that one. Actually, I think there's going to be probably $1,000, maybe $1,500. We haven't gotten the last bill of the year from the attorney for working on this OPEB contract. There's plenty of money in that line, So I'm not worried about that, but I'm not going to take anything out of it to fill any other holes. Professional and contract services, that, I did a lot of math on that to make sure that one came out all right and that one looks set. So if we hop down to, bank fees are all set. If we hop down to special events, 818.710, there's a little bit of a shortage there. We're going to do the same thing we did over in books. The business line has a little bit of a surplus, so we'll move $200 from that up to that line. And as I said, Tracy said that she thinks she's about $200 short in the child special events, so she wants to take that from her book account. We talked about that on the previous page. 818.73 and 818.74 are all set. 853 telephone, that one looks good. Insurance, we've already paid our insurance bills for the year, so that 1467 is a little bit of a surplus. Yep. Utilities, heat looks pretty good. I looked at basically what our max bills have been in the past, so there's plenty of money in there should we have a cold snap for the rest of December. Today would not be an indication of that as it poured rain down on us, but I don't make, it's Michigan, we don't make.
By the way, do we have any leaks?
Nope.
Because we had some pretty good rain coming down today.
Yeah, no, we I haven't, and no one has reported anything.
Good.
So we're good. I am concerned about electrical, 921, only because obviously when we have cold weather, the heat is more expensive, and when we have warm weather, the air is more expensive. So if we were to have the same amount owed for November and December, that's not enough money. So I would recommend a budget adjustment of $1,300 just in case it turns out that we have a warm December. If we continue to have a warm December, we might be in trouble financially. So that's an easy budget adjustment to make. I'll tell you in a moment where that can come from. Water and sewer, I looked at that and that appears to be okay. We have one more water and sewer bill left to come, but I think it's all set. Building and grounds maintenance, this one is just, there's always something extra going into that line, and a lot of repairs and things like that have taken place this year. So it is over budget by $7,496 right now. And when we did the snow plowing for the snow that we had earlier a few weeks ago, by the time he plowed all that, that can add $1,000 right off the top. So if we were to have a couple snowstorms between now and the end of the year, I would suggest that we do a $10,000 budget adjustment there to make sure that there's enough to hold us in case there's snow. So it's hard when you're making budget adjustments based on the possibility of weather.
So we might need the air conditioning, or we might need snow removal.
We're just not sure. We're just not sure. Equipment maintenance. There was some additional fees that have gone up in terms of the maintenance of our softwares and things like that. So I talked to Bill, and we think we should probably add about $4,500 to that line item to make sure that we're good.
Which one was that?
Equipment maintenance 933.
Okay.
Printing and subscriptions, printing and publishing. We're down to $396 left in that. That is where we pay for our ads and some things like that. We have bills yet to come, and there's not enough left in that line item for those. But I think about $2,000 will cover everything. I went round and round on the subscription budget. I think that one is good. I think I've finally accounted for everything that needs to go in there yet. Operating supplies is good. This is the first time in several years when we've actually not had to make budget adjustment for that. Sharon was worried about 740.2, the technical services operating supply budget, but I talked to Brad and he said, nope, that's all set. He used the budget to buy the last of the cases in that case, the recasing project that he's been working on. And he left enough in there in case we had an emergency purchase of tape or something else to get us to the end of the year. So he said no, he thought he was good for the rest of the year. Audio visual, there are still some bills coming in, but the librarians have assured me that there's enough to cover in those line items, so we're good there. Conferences and workshops, everything is paid for, so that would be a surplus. Mileage, we might have a couple of people left that have meetings, but not enough to require $873, so that one's got a bit of a surplus. Refunds and rebates, that's the one where, as they balance the taxes, the county owed us $13.47 this month. Last month, we owed them, $126. I think there's plenty of money in that line item. We've been volleying back and forth about $300 or $400 over the course of the year. So I think unless there's some big balancing at the end of the year, I would be very surprised if we would need anywhere near that amount of money. The building budget, that's the $135,772. That is to pay for the ASI bill, parking lot, and then also for the removal of the letters and the retaining wall. I estimate that, the ASI bill is about $1,885 more than the estimate. I thought that was actually pretty good. And that was because Oakland County had something that they required us to do out by the road that was not in the original RFP. And to my mind and to the engineer's mind, we don't punish the contractor for that. That wasn't his fault. We didn't know we needed to do it, and they didn't know that they needed to do it. So I would recommend a $2,100, the biggest line item that we were talking about tonight. We only need to make a $2,100 adjustment in order to make that one flush. So if you look at the spreadsheet, the 716 health insurance, we originally budgeted $96,110. Our shortfall is about $9,600. If we take $7,100 from retirement, which we said had a surplus, and $2,500 from FICA, that would cover that. The next one, 982.1 books adult, that was an $80,000 budget. I think he really thinks he needs about $1,000, but to be on the safe side, I said $2,000. That one can be easily moved from the book budget for business, which is sort of part of his jurisdiction anyway, so we're just really moving it from one category to another. There's a $5,100 surplus there, and we're only going to move $2,000. 818.710 special events for adults, that was a $2,000 budget. We need $192 in that line. The business budget has $377 in their event line, so we can move $200 from there. 818.720 special events for children was a $6,000 budget. Tracy would like $200 in there. She thinks it's a little bit close. And it could be taken from children's books, which is so we can move $200 there. 719 OPEB, that HCSP line, it was $12,575. We think we're about $1,300 short. We can take that from part-time wages. We think there's about a $33,000 surplus in that line, so we can take out $1,300. Electrical was a $27,000 budget. We have a shortfall of about $1,300 to be safe, to make sure there's, just in case we have a warm snap for the rest of the year, in case we have a brown Christmas. Part-time, or maybe even a green Christmas. We can take that out of part-time wages even after we take out that $1,300. There's $31,700 left, so we can take that from there. 931 building and grounds maintenance, that was a $50,000 budget. That's the big shortfall. $10,000 to be safe from part-time wages. Even after we take out those two 1,300s, there's $30,400, so we can take out $10,000. 933 equipment maintenance, that was a $39,500 budget. $4,500 is what we need. Part-time wages, even after we've taken out those three, there's still $20,000, so we can take out the $4,500. I did this so it would be easy to go over this. Yeah. I grouped them not by number, but by where we're taking it from. Yep. Printing and publishing, that was a $20,000 budget. We need $2,000. Part-time wages, there's still $15,900 left even after we take all those out, so we can take out the $2,000 there. And last but not least, the building budget. It's a $152,675 budget. We need $2,100 to cover that parking lot change. Yeah, the change. Out of part-time wages, there's still $13,900 left, so we can take out that $2,100, and there's still $11,800 in surplus in that line. So I think everything is coming out nice and smooth. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was scraping pennies out of each little line item. So.
Very clear. Any questions or comments?
No.
Very clearly.
I like this format. It's made it very easy to follow.
I will do that in the future. I did this a couple of years ago when we did our budget adjustments at the end of the year, and I thought, wait a minute, I think they liked it when I did this last time. Let me pull that spreadsheet out. and we'll
Yeah,
do it.
that works.
Yeah, it makes it easy to email it to the accountants as well.
Instead of all these arrows, can you imagine?
Yeah, it's very easy to follow. I mean, it's nice to talk about all of it over here, but it's
Yeah.
nice to.
Yeah, to get to see the
sum
big
it up.
picture and then the summation.
And then the way you've summed it up, you can approve it as presented, if you'd like to do it that way. Just so that people understand when we're talking about these surpluses in this budget, they will go into fund balance and most likely they'll end up in the parking lot next year. So we've got a purpose for them. And that's part of the reason I was hoping that we could save a little bit of money this year, because we know that next year, phase 2 of the parking lot project is the most expensive piece. So, phase 1 was the second most expensive piece, and phase 3.
Yeah, well, that's just pretty straightforward. It's a bigger area, but it's a big
Yeah.
flat square.
The phase 1 was the second most expensive because we had to replace those 2 storm drains,
Yes.
and we had to do up by the road and
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. The third part is the least expensive part, so I tried in phase 1 to try and save up money so that we would have some extra to be able to do that. So,
Excellent. I will accept a motion.
I move that we approve the end-of-year budget adjustments as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the final budget adjustments as presented. Any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And now, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Dan is so quick with that.
That's his favorite.
I was just waiting.
Michelle.
Vicky, did you second
I
that?
seconded.
Oh, Dan. Okay.
There was somebody down at
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:25.